Good morning, everyone. It's Hanifa Menen from hearthealthbrainhealth.com, encouraging healthy grieving and mindful actions. Today, my thoughts have been all focused on contemplation about pain and suffering. And of course, you know that I focus on both grief recovery and brain retraining. And the first quotation that I came across is something that many people might have heard. This quotation is by Haruki Murakami, and it says, "Pain is inevitable, suffering is optional." Pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. And of course, it sounds like pretty flowery words, right? It wouldn't everyone love to think that, yeah, suffering is optional, but yeah, most people are going through some sort of suffering. Now, pain, yes, we are going through different pains, and this would be mental, emotional, or physical. Of course, it could be spiritual too. All of these areas can create pain in an individual. And then suffering is optional. Now, anyone who is going through any sort of pain would say, well, I wish suffering was inevitable, optional, I should say. But really, I don't feel it's optional. I actually feel that suffering is inevitable. And quite honestly, it's all our perspective on it, right? So, in terms of this idea of pain is inevitable, I will say that I believe our human life existence always has good times and always has not so good times. And those not so good times are often linked with this feeling of pain and suffering. Now, some of you might know that the Buddha's work was literally focused on teaching people about suffering and how to overcome suffering. And in terms of Vedic scriptures, which you know I'm very much interested in and do love to share with you, the idea is very similar, is about understanding suffering and how to overcome it. And this is such a beautiful experience. But of course, I combine this with the other aspects that I focus on, which is about love. And love really can help people overcome suffering. And you might think, well, how is that possible? Because when I love something, and let's say I think of losing it, that's suffering, right? So I love something, I lose something. So it could be a person that you love, right? It could be a family member, it could be a friend, it could be some health experience in your own body that you had this ability and right now you do not have that ability. That's a suffering. Then how would love overcome that? And I can tell you, I thought I would share that some of you know that my brother passed away many years ago, and it was a very transformational time for my life experience. But I can tell you that when I contemplate this today, I think, wow, there was so much love in that relationship. And there was also a transcending of that experience, the transcending of the pain and suffering of it because of the love. Because when I got to that space where I recognized that I love him so much that would not want him to be in suffering. Now, him to be in suffering. So I was looking for his suffering and how that could be overcome with, again, when it didn't seem like his healing was possible. There was a love that I had for his life experience or his experience, his soul's journey. And that was huge. So, in terms of understanding that love heals, it's that allowing that freedom, right? So, what would hold me back from sharing that sort of love? Fear of losing him, right? So, of course, the time came where I did lose him, but I do know that there was so much love in recognizing that he is ready to move forward. And he didn't need my permission, but I might have needed that permission myself to be able to overcome my own suffering in that experience, right? So you might be able to think of things like that in life. If we think about an average relationship, you have a relationship, and of course, I've gone through this experience too, and you're in love with a person and everything seems perfect, and suddenly something, or maybe not suddenly, maybe over time, things are shifting. And suddenly that love seems to be fading because the suffering seems to be greater. Yet, there might be enough of a love of freedom, either for the self or for the other person's self, for the freedom of that not healthy relationship that has happened, I'll say, because of life experiences and things changing, and we all change, right? So being able to say, I love you enough to give you freedom is a very different space to come from. So this, I came across another quotation. This one is by Stephen Levine. And this quotation says, "To heal is to touch with love that which we previously touched with fear." To heal is to touch with love that which we previously touched with fear. So even if we think about a situation that's not so good, I'm not encouraging that everyone go out and have a divorce if you're not, if you're lovingly setting someone on free or setting someone free because you want them to have freedom. So, just to break up your relationships. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is right within a relationship, remember that a person always has three choices, right? There is the full acceptance of what is. There is the creation of a change that makes things better, or there is completely letting go and providing that freedom. And all of those choices give a freedom, right? So there is, again, a freedom from a love that is shared in that experience. And that's shared because you intend to share it, not that you need the other person to feel the same thing. So again, it's a deep thought, but if you can think about when you truly have love for yourself and another person, you will recognize that you can overcome suffering. I had written a poem not long ago about transcending tears, and I feel like it's my purpose, or part of my purpose at least, in this journey of life. And I will post it at the bottom of this video on my YouTube channel, just so that you can read that too, because it might be part of what you do in your life too. It might be with your children, it might be with your parents, it might be with friends or your work. It might be with yourself and giving yourself some freedom in some aspects. And so today I'd love for you to think for 5 minutes after this video, are there places that you love so fully that you can allow this freedom from suffering, either for yourself or for another person? And I suspect you can. I'd love for you to think of one area that you might be able to do that. And I'd like to finish with this quotation by Tonia Woolever. And this quotation just seemed beautiful to me, so I had to share it. It says, "If you have ever deeply loved another person, you will bear witness to the fact that love gives us the power to transcend our own limitations and fears for the sake of the beloved." Okay, so that's basically putting together everything I've just been trying to share with you. I'll read it one more time. It says, "If you have ever deeply loved another person, you will bear witness to the fact that love gives us the power to transcend our own limitations and fears for the sake of the beloved." And I would love for you to just contemplate and reflect on that idea for a little while. And I do hope you know that you are also the beloved, right? So transcending your own fears is going to help you first and will help the people around you too. I wish you a fabulous day ahead, and I hope you remember, transform your mind and transform your life. Have a great day, everyone.